Hey, what's going on everyone? Today we're going to be doing a quick video on Qualifier 1 of the Fishing Planet Anniversary Cup at White Moose Lake. Qualifier 1 is all about getting the 10 largest Atlantic salmon in your bag to add up to a final score. Last year, this qualifier was my very first tournament run in which I came 8th place with a score of 188 pounds, or an 18.8 pound average. Now a year later, I want to go back and see whether or not last year was a complete fluke. I'll be breaking down some of my decision making, some lure selections, as well as some general tips to help some of you who may be interested in giving this qualifier a try next year. And before I get into the run, be sure to leave a like or subscribe to my channel if you find anything in this video helpful or entertaining. And without further ado, let's get into it. To start things off, let's talk about these setups. I'm going to be going with the 46-pound Sam Monster, aka the Zeus spinning rod, and pairing it up with the 45.2-pound Griffin Spod 9000. For line, I'm going to be going with the 46-pound braid, and for the lure, I'll be using the 5.0 black buzzbait. I have two setups with this exact same setup, the only difference being that the last one has the X Series nymph as an attachment, and the other has the X Series larva. Though, using non-X Series variations of both of these attachments will also work. The important part of this setup is the black buzzbait, as it performs well at the top column of the water, where Atlantic salmon tend to inhabit in White Moose Lake. Other options that will work include various 4.0 and 6.0 crankbaits, as well as the 4.0 duo swim bait. Overall, I think it's important not to overcomplicate your lure selections, though having one or two alternative setups will ultimately remedy a slow biting period. An important factor to this run will be the 30-minute respawn timer that the trophy Atlantic salmon have. Given that I will be using 3 spots with 1 trophy per spot, the maximum amount of trophy Atlantic salmon that can be caught will be 12 within a 2-hour timer. Now, there's a catch, as sometimes you can actually double up on your trophies and catch 2 instead of 1 at each spot.
I'm seeing double here. 4 crusties.
You may be asking, well, why don't I just catch 2 trophies per spot? Well, the important detail to catching the second trophy is that 1, it's not always going to spawn in, and 2, if you do catch the second one, it seems to affect your respawn timer in a negative way, throwing off your rhythm and timing.
They're playing in time to the beat of my banging.
Then stop banging.
I can't. The rhythm is infectious.
So for the most consistent results, it's best to change spots once you grab your first trophy. Starting out, I like to hit the first spot to the left side of the boat dock. This spot seems to be the most consistent out of the 3 spots that I use, and I just find it easier to work left from right. The way I like to fish these spots is with a stop and go retrieval at the top column of the water, just beneath the surface. It's important to find the right reel setup as to enable you to maintain a 2-dot stop and go without breaking the surface of the water, though I do know some people prefer to use the buzzbait as a topwater lure. This first spot hit relatively quickly on my first rotation. Notice how this trophy struck. Pay attention to how much line they take out and how hard the initial hit is. If you can get consistent with recognizing when a trophy hits versus a common, it can be the key detail for a technique that you'll be seeing later on in this run. Anyway, starting off the run with the 20-pounder is a good start. Moving along to the second spot, you don't need to move very far from spot 1 as you're just moving to the right side of the boat dock. This spot may be a little tricky to finesse, as it is a further cast with a less consistent range at which the fish like to strike. I usually don't like to do anything fancy here, just take what you're given and move on to spot 3. For spot 3, you'll need to spawn up at the dam road spawn. Once you're spawned in, head towards this stand marker. The coordinates will be on screen. Spot 3 is probably my second favorite spot behind only spot 1 due to having a consistent bite range of about 135 to 100 feet in, as well as the occasional strike in the last 50 feet or so. Unfortunately, this spot did me dirty on the first go round with a small 14-pound trophy, one that I'll be looking to replace later on in the run. Once you catch your 3 trophies, you'll most likely have a long 10 to 20 minute wait before your first trophy respawns. In that time, I like to hit some alternative spots that don't tend to be as consistent in producing a trophy, as I want to actively prevent myself from accidentally catching a double from one of these 3 spots, just making sure I still clear out some of these commons. And that's pretty much what a complete rotation looks like for this qualifier. The rest of the run is making sure that I hit all my respawns as quickly as possible. You'll find that your respawns may decide to hit in the first few minutes upon respawning, so it's important not to waste too much time once your respawn is available. Catching your respawns can be a tricky process at times. If you casted 4 to 5 times with no trophy, try switching to an alternate setup, as sometimes a small adjustment to your lure setup is all it takes to spawn in a pesky respawn. It won't always work, but it's important to not get overly reliant on a singular setup if things are going south. You'll see me switching to the X-Series larva from the nymph later on in the run, and it netted me some positive results. Just as a quick note, I'll be posting all the coordinates of today's spots at the end of the video, so be sure to stick around for those. I'll add a timestamp if you'd like to skip ahead. Anyway, the sizes of my fish caught in the second rotation were all pretty good, finishing at spot 3 with a 21 pounder. It certainly helped ease the pain of a 14-pound trophy earlier on in the run. Coming back to spot 1 for my third rotation, remember me telling you to pay attention to how hard a fish hits earlier on? Well, being able to tell that this fish that I hooked was going to be a small trophy allowed me to purposefully release it. As you can see at half speed, the fish that I ended up releasing brought me out to nearly the same distance as the 21-pound trophy on the right, despite being hooked about 15 feet further out. Also notice the meters on the right reaching the top, and the meters on the left stop around midway. By releasing the smaller trophy, I'm able to gamble that I can get a larger trophy to spawn in before my respawn timer becomes unworkable for another trophy afterwards. Now, I don't always recommend that you release fish like I'm doing, but if you have the luxury of time, sometimes it's worth re-rolling the dice, hoping for a larger fish. Unfortunately, the next trophy that hit was also a smaller one, leading me to also release it. After releasing 2 small trophies, I didn't want to delay my respawn timers at spot 2 and 3, so I made the decision to sacrifice my respawn spot 1 to maintain a reasonable chance at pulling 2 more trophies out of the other 2 spots. Luckily for me, both trophies came out quickly enough to give me a good chance at coming back for a 4th rotation. I was feeling pretty bummed after spot 1 not producing a larger trophy, so having both spots produce as quickly as they did arguably saved this run. Heading back to spot 1, I was locked into catching 1 more trophy, and it decided to come right at the 30-minute mark. A bit of a slap in the face, but sometimes that's just the way things can go when you take a gamble. In hindsight, should I have just taken the smaller trophy in hopes of a respawn? Probably, but I don't regret taking the risk for a larger trophy. Moving down to the wire, I knew that staying in 20th place wasn't going to hold. Having 2 more chances for a trophy, I wasn't exactly thrilled to be served up another 14-pounder. With only one last chance at replacing one of my 2 14-pound trophies, I can really only hope that another 20-pounder was in the cards. And as luck may have it, I'll be making a kind donation to the Church of RNGesus for bestowing me a hefty 21-pound end to my run. All in all, this was a pretty solid run that had a little bit of everything, from fast respawns, to low weights, and a cliffhanger ending. Hopefully you were able to take some things from this run, or maybe learned a thing or 2. I ended up qualifying with the same final score as I did last year. I probably won't be playing in the semifinals this year, but good luck to everyone who qualified this year. I'll be including the coordinates on each spot used in today's video at the end. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all boatside.